Media rights, also known as broadcasting rights, have been compatible with sport since the 1930s. Media rights in sport is when a broadcasting company agrees with a sports governing body in order to show their products in the media. Media includes sources such as television, radio, and live or delayed highlights. Media rights play a vital role in sports because sports are continuously being watched on television. The gradual growth of televised professional sport programming first started with national broadcast networks such as NBC, CBS, and ABC. National sport cable networks such as ESPN that launched in 1979 and pay-per-view created simpler revenue streams for sports companies. Most recently in the 1990s, broadcast networks such as Fox was fueled by the demand for major sports content. Starting in the mid-1990s, RSNs emerged, which is when cable television stations offered live broadcasts of professional and collegiate level sports. Eventually, RSNs became popular because sports clubs were able to obtain dual revenue through subscription fees and advertising, which allowed them to have higher contracts to locally televise their games. RSN contracts typically last 10 to 20 years. Most RSNs have the rights to 2 or more MLB, NBA, or NHL clubs, which means a lot of the times these games play live all at once. The ratings of each sporting team matters for each RSN because an RSN will switch from a lower rated game to a higher rated game. RSN ratings are of high interest for individual sporting clubs because the RSN annual rights fee is a major source of local revenue. The fees that broadcast and television stations pay to sporting leagues and teams for the right to show live games continues to increase. The top 3 leading RSNs in 2012 were Yes Network at $513 million, Fox Sports Southwest at $328 million, and Madison Square Garden Network at $304 million.
The origin of media rights. The first media rights contract ever signed happened on June 9, 1960. The American Football League, known as the AFL, and the American Broadcasting Corporation, known as ABC, agreed to a television deal for 5 years worth just under $2 million annually. At the time, it was a groundbreaking moment for sports. The revolutionary deal led to the AFL establishing revenue sharing across the entire league, revenue that was critical in keeping competitive with the NFL. The AFL's move started a ripple effect in professional sports. Shortly after the deal with ABC, the NFL countered by signing an agreement with CBS. The deal was 2 years and $9.3 million to broadcast their games exclusively. However, the 1961 and 62 seasons were blocked after the stations that had entered into the rights agreements with individual teams successfully challenged it under the Sherman Antitrust Act. Later, the Sports Broadcasting Act ruled that antitrust laws shall not apply to any joint agreement, by which any league of clubs participating in football, baseball, basketball, or hockey contests sells or otherwise transfers all or any part of the rights of such leagues' members' clubs in the sponsored telecasting of the games, engaged in or conducted by such clubs. Since its decision, sports media rights have grown to astronomical heights. The state of cable and satellite TV. From 1980 to 2023, the 5 largest professional U.S. sports leagues will have earned more than $210 billion from domestic media rights alone, according to Bloomberg News analysts. The NFL accounting for 65% of that. Recently, Amazon and Apple have also jumped into the sports broadcasting market, driving up the price that traditional media companies pay. With more and more homes cutting the cord and ditching cable for streaming, TV networks are scrambling for properties which garner ratings and in return drive ad revenue. At the end of 2018, TV subscribers stood at 87 million. By the end of this year, they're expected to fall to 63 million, according to Bloomberg Intelligence. The rating system. When deciding where to buy spots for their commercials, advertisers refer to ratings. Let's say an NBA game between the Lakers and Warriors has a 5.5 household rating over a 9 share. We can break this into 2 parts. The 5.5 accounts for 5.5% of all households with a TV set watch the program. The 9 means that 9% of households with TVs that were watching at that given time were tuned into the program. Nielsen began measuring to keep track of TV ratings in 1950, using electronic and proprietary metering technology to keep tabs on the audience that is watching television programs on any given night. Ratings are calculated and distributed to the public using Nielsen. Nielsen charts the top 50 shows on cable and Fast Nationals for network television. These ratings give advertisers a sense of how valuable the game or show they paid to advertise on is. The charts do not rank the shows based on total viewers, instead ranking them on their 18 to 49 age demographic. This age group is what sponsors target, therefore television properties that garner a higher 18 to 49 demo are seen as more valuable, which is why sports media rights are the most valuable property in television and streaming.
When looking at the RSN, it is evident that the RSN has emerged as a vital component of the U.S. professional sport business and television media landscape. In our research, we found 5 key factors of what makes the RSN vital and also that showcases the determinants of the RSN ratings. First, the sports industry saying that, quote, winning is important but not the only thing, is reinforced. In other words, the RSN is driven by winning. It's what drives the ratings. Second, our consumer marketing conceptual framework appears to explain important differences across clubs and over time in the level of their average annual RSN ratings. Third, the increasing richness in recent years of social media data pertaining to sport clubs and players will enable new variables to be included in the sports RSN ratings literature. Fourth, findings have implications for many of the stakeholders who have an interest in the level of RSN ratings for a sporting club. Fifth, our research on RSN television ratings should be viewed as helping to provide a more informed platform from which to examine the ratings of live sports in a beyond television world, as there are screens everywhere, for example, your mobile screen. Overall, the RSN is the model that the majority of MLB, NBA, and NHL clubs are following in the United States to share their live content. To conclude, the 5 categories identified as the key drivers of RSN ratings provide direction to practitioners in maximizing audiences.
I'm going to look at how this research was conducted, why they used the techniques they did, and also preview their findings. In terms of methodology, this research uses both univariate and multivariate approaches to figure out the average annual ratings for regional sports networks. A univariate analysis is one in which only one variable is looked at. And in this case, the independent variable is the league, which is either the NBA, the MLB, or the NHL. The univariate analysis looks at teams all from the same league, while the multivariate analysis looks at teams from all 3 different leagues. Average annual regional sports networks ratings per club serve as the dependent variable, while proxy variables for each of the identified factors are independent variables. The article lists 5 categories of RSN rating determinants, which are product club, product players, brand club, brand players, and place. There are 46 variables representing the 5 categories that were identified as potential individual determinants of regional sports networks' ratings. The data examined was eventually reduced to just 16 of the original 46 variables. In many cases, the reduction was a function of variables measuring the same influence, like winning percentage in the current season and winning percentage in the prior season, or winning percentage change, between seasons, basically meshing all those into one. They found several variables that positively correlated with higher RSN ratings, and Sam will discuss these.
Alright, Table 3 univariate correlations by pooled sample and individual league samples. There are several key findings reported in Table 3. First, for the product club variables, there's a positive association between winning percentage in the current season and a higher RSN rating. Second, for the variables in the product players category, the higher the investment in club total player payroll, the higher the RSN ratings. Further, the higher the total number of elite players awarded in the current season, the higher the RSN ratings. Third, each of the 5 variables classified as brand club has a significant positive correlation between RSN ratings. Fourth, for the brand player variables, the 2 variables, number of retired jerseys and the number of players nominated to the All-Star team for the current season, were statistically correlated with the RSN ratings.